Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Schenectady. I am Tom Comprin. He, him are good pronouns when referring to me, and I am your worship associate today, leading worship with one of our co-ministers, the Reverend Wendy Bartell. Instead of he, she, they pronouns, Wendy's name works best. Wherever you are in your journey of finding truth and meaning, whether you arrive joyous or with a heavy heart, we are grateful that you have chosen to be here this morning.
And now, let us settle more fully into our seats wherever we find ourselves this morning, preparing ourselves for worship. That is, to lift up that which is of worth. Today, while you are welcome to sit in relative stillness and do your own meditation or prayers, I'm going to invite us into some very little bits of gentle contemplative movement. So you're invited to keep your eyes open, but maybe just soften your gaze a bit, maybe towards the chalice or towards the floor. And as is always the case, you have agency to decide what you will choose to do or simply let float on by. So to begin, you're invited to place your hands on your belly, on your middle, as you breathe in and breathe out at your own pace. Just feeling your own belly expand on your in-breath and relax on your out-breath. And if your belly is not moving when you breathe, see if you can invite your breath to go a little bit lower. Yeah, our lungs might start coughing with this deeper breath. It's all right. See if you can invite your breath to go a little bit lower. Maybe filling your lungs from the bottom up is maybe a good image for you. No need to force. Just invite and see what happens. Belly expanding, belly relaxing. As you continue to breathe with your soft gaze and relaxed posture, see if you can find a bit of peace inside you, whatever that means to you. Somewhere inside, mixed in with all the emotions, past the to-do list, beneath the shoulds maybe, somewhere there. Find just a bit of peace, or maybe for you, a lot of peace. And see if you can focus your mind there. Breathing in and breathing out, with your attention on that bit of peace inside you, as your hands continue to hold you. And now, if it feels all right, you're invited to move your hands to your chest or to your heart as you breathe in and breathe out. And as you breathe, maybe you find a bit of love inside you this time. Perhaps it's there, right next to the peace. Or maybe it's hiding somewhere behind it, or behind some self-doubt or worry. Wherever it may be, find a bit of love in you as you hold your own heart and continue to breathe in and breathe out. Our bodies often need our attention. Noticing that there is peace and love within us helps our brains have somewhere to go when the world is too much with us. And if it feels all right with you, I invite you to keep one hand on your heart and move the other hand back to your belly. Only you know which hand belongs where, which hand feels right to you to have on your heart, and which hand feels right to place on your middle. You can even try both out to see which feels better. Breathing in and breathing out. And as our breath cycles and our own hands gently hold us, if it feels good, let us join all of this practice together by breathing in peace as your belly expands and breathing out love as your middle relaxes and your heart beats. Breathing in peace as your belly expands and breathing out love as your heart beats. Breathing in peace, breathing out love. And as you continue this practice of breathing in peace and breathing out love, might you lift your eyes if vision is available to you, or your awareness, and gently glance around at all these other wonderful beings, also focusing their attention on breathing in peace and breathing out love. Just noticing around the room. Breathing in peace, breathing out love. Maybe the corners of your mouth might rise, or a warmth may emanate from you to others in the room. Even if you don't make eye contact, even if you do. Breathing in peace and breathing out love in this ever expanding circle. Even when things are hard, we can find even just a bit of peace, just a bit of love that we can breathe. And we can beam that peace and love to others. It can feel a little awkward or uncomfortable at first, but we can survive a little discomfort, right? To increase peace and love in the world, bless you. Because there's someone in this room who needs our peace. There's someone in this room who needs our love. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's the person next to you or across from you or down the row from you. Maybe it's someone on Zoom. Maybe it's someone beyond these walls. But just by breathing and our focus, we can increase someone else's experience of peace and love. Isn't that worth a little discomfort to make eye contact, to raise our awareness for others in the room? Sure, there are the cynics among us and the skeptics. And sure, there are humans who are doing harm, but you know what? That's on them right now. And anytime we wish, we can find peace, we can find love inside us and recenter in being the people we want to be in this world, creating the world we want to create. Breathing in peace, breathing out love. And if you want to just keep doing that, you can. Or if you are willing and want to, you can bring our hands together in front of us and give a gentle bow of namaste to others in the room. In addition to some peace and love this week, we've experienced a time change, a full moon, election day, the ongoing federal government shutdown impacting here and elsewhere, SCOTUS anti-trans rulings, a cruel game of withholding SNAP benefits, lovely moments, hard moments, incredible beauty of red Japanese maples just being themselves, glowing. Light and dark impact us. We need both light and darkness. The construct of time certainly impacts us. The moon is so powerful it impacts the ocean waves. Certainly we, as 70% plus water, are not immune to the impact of the moon. Part of this week for me held some grieving, or what I sometimes call pre-grieving. Yeah, our small shy dog Luna is essentially on hospice now. Yeah. She is aging, and at nearly 15 and 3/4, her hearing and eyesight nearly gone. She's losing weight and continence and seems occasionally confused, staring at something we humans cannot see. Soon, the time will come when we will need to say goodbye to this sweet companion who has accompanied us for 13 and 3/4 of our co-ministry, of our marriage, of our lives. I am pre-grieving. And we know that many of you have furry and other types of companions that are part of your family, and that many of you have needed to say goodbye this summer and this fall too, or recently in other ways. And even in our grief, sharp as it is some days, there is gratitude. Luna has brought us great joy over the years, her tail wagging furiously when we came home after a 15-minute errand, or a long Sunday, or a week away, didn't matter how long. The way she would dance on her hind legs anytime we were near the pod peas or the kale in our garden, hoping we'd give her some to gnaw on, back when she had teeth. Luna provided us comfort when we have grieved the loss of family or friends, congregants. She has given us company on long car rides and many, many hikes. For such a small dog, she could hike like nobody's business. Luna the adventure dog, we sometimes called her. And her fierce sense of self as big dog, barking at any other dogs not deterred by their size ever, who might get too close to us, was unmatched. We are, of course, experiencing lots of losses along the way. So grief and gratitude are tumbling together. And a couple of weeks ago, I was in Chicago, or about a week and a half ago, I was in Chicago for the UU Ministers Association board meeting, and one of the co-executive directors delivered her letter of resignation, effective July 31st. I happen to think the Reverend Melissa Carville-Zemer is incredibly well suited for the role she has now held for the past 10 years, and have told her so on numerous occasions. I am grieving that loss too. And even in my grief, there is gratitude. Melissa has provided caring and centered leadership through many challenges. Just think of what's happened in the world in the last 10 years, and in Unitarian Universalism too. She has strengthened right relationship with ministers through the Good Offices program, which is a bit like ombudsman work. Lynn is one of those good officers. Melissa knows how hard and how lonely ministry can sometimes be, and has offered programs of connection and professional development, brokered significant changes in long-held traditions that made things better for so many people, even though many resisted. And she has been right so very often, even as she is still human. Grief and gratitude as November's theme has felt really fitting for this time that we are in, yes, and also for the times that are coming as we head towards the holiday season, and for all the feelings that may come. As the days grow shorter and the holidays are nearing, how might our Unitarian Universalist faith help us navigate through all our emotions so that we don't just survive the next couple of months, but maybe even dare to thrive? How might we rise to the various occasions at which we find ourselves?
Soon, Thanksgiving will be here. Many people's favorite holiday, or so I have read, focused not on religion nor gift giving, but rather on family and community, and for some, football. Of course, sometimes there are those uncomfortable conversations arising from a stray remark or from a polemic someone has been bottling up, just waiting for an audience and a chance to educate everyone else. My family will be gathering this year at my sister's home in Alexandria, Virginia, oh so near our nation's capital. Can we offer gratitude without acknowledging all those who are suffering needlessly? Without acknowledging the thousands of laid off government workers living nearby, including my sister's own brother in law, a decades long employee of USAID? Among my siblings and cousins, you will find people politically far to the left and far to the right, and some in the middle. You will find Catholics and atheists, Pentecostalists, Southern Baptists, and at least one Unitarian Universalist family. We are not generally a confrontational group. but even treading lightly creates tension inside and out. Into this day of welcoming hugs and good cheer and familial catching up, I will, with compassion and generosity, center and ground myself. Into this day of sharing from differing values and life experiences, I will acknowledge to myself that we all live in our own information ecosystems. I will remind myself that I am the most obsessive political observer in the room. I will center love and try not to go into the anger zone or the know it all zone. Listen, breathe. I will remind myself of the both and complexity of our interconnected world. I will avoid reductive pronouncements. He is racist. He is a fascist. I will say, I am troubled by his racist statements and fascist policies. I will invoke my church and my faith early and often. I will do so not to bully nor to claim divine certainty, but to remind others that my values, that our values, are not the product of some casual half-baked fad, but rather come from a long and deep faith tradition that grapples with the human condition, that supports individual and collective spiritual journeys, that works for just and right relationships. As I gather with family and friends for feasting and sharing and perhaps debating, I know that practicing our UU values can empower me to rise to the occasion of just being together, building deeper ties and understanding by listening with generosity and compassion. The occasion of conflict, not to convince or to convert, but to respond with forthright love. Yes, trans and gay and non-binary people are so much a part of my beloved community. Yes, immigrants today are so much like our own grandparents. Yes, my wife is a government employee working to make our state so much safer and cleaner for all of us. Yes, white supremacy culture is real, and genuine diversity, equity, and inclusion will benefit all of us. The occasion of offering gratitude, as I do now, here. Thank you to so many of you for helping instill these values in me, for sharing these values and this work, for fortifying me to navigate with love through our tangled and troubled and beautiful world.
In addition to the time change and full moon and all, the Survive and Thrive team explored the UUA's common read about ecosystems and social change. The author, Deepa Iyer, wrote, "The social change framework embodies the idea that we are all part of an ecosystem or ecosystem, and that when we come together around shared values and goals and play our roles effectively and collaboratively, we can make our boldest visions a reality." She defines an ecosystem as a community, a home, or a place in space where we feel a sense of belonging, familiarity, and alignment around our values, goals, and strategies for the future, and where we emphasize the importance of cultivating, nurturing, and sustaining relationships, connections, and solidarity. When we come together to do social change work in ecosystems, we are accountable to others. We seek consent and permission as needed for our actions, and we receive and offer collaboration and care. Deepa Iyer notes that while ecosystems vary in type and structure, they often have similar characteristics, noting that many of the characteristics we find in natural ecosystems are mirrored in the formations that human beings develop to connect with each other, from organizations to networks to movements. For example, solidarity economies of different kinds, mutual aid, barter and gift exchange, and knowledge sharing are rooted in universal values of cooperation and mutual exchange. Nonprofits, social enterprises, volunteer groups, and social media networks may be different in structure, but they also share similar goals around social change and systemic transformation. In her book, Iyer lists a few characteristics that we often find in thriving social change ecosystems: interdependence, shared energy source, reciprocity, adaptation to change, diversity, preservation, and complexity and capacity to evolve. And each of these characteristics are accompanied by descriptions in the book. And we noticed during the retreat that some earlier versions of the book had a slightly different description than one. So we had to write in our books the extra phrases so that we all had the same phrase there. And it was about conflict, that being generative. So it was a pretty important phrase that was missing. Iyer notes that not all characteristics can be present at once in our ecosystems. Many social change ecosystems have shifted the ways in which they operate and connect. For example, the shutdowns during the pandemic required many nonprofit organizations to pivot by adding new strategies for community outreach. Other ecosystems have taken time to look at their internal world by reflecting on their shared energy source, their capacity to handle nuance, and their comfort level with diverse ideas. At the same time, she says, we are confronting forces that diminish our capacity to form ecosystems. Here in the US, we live in a culture that values individualism over a community-centered approach. The stance of "I got mine and I'm not concerned with yours" is becoming even more prevalent at a time when external crises, such as the pandemic and climate change, should be pulling us closer together, she says. Although social media falsely dangles the promise of connectedness, it also enables us to be bystanders and voyeurs as we scroll, like, or block content. She says having fewer civic spaces and collective gathering places means that we don't have as many natural and easy ways to come together, and that we can see the effects of this disconnection all around us. More people are feeling isolated from each other. Social loneliness and diminished mental health have become pervasive, even in social change spaces. People tend to resort to silos or worry about the effects of being ostracized and excluded if they express certain viewpoints or don't have a fully fleshed out and pure political analysis of an issue. That is why nurturing the connections and commonalities between people is a vital strategy for our individual and collective capacity to survive and thrive, she says. There's a lot of wisdom that Deepa Iyer is bringing us. And I want to note that we here are protecting and providing the civic spaces she is talking about. Congregational life is so important, not just for us, but for the larger ecosystem that is community. Because we help people be better humans when we connect, be gentle, listen, offer understanding, restrain the know-it-all or anger impulse Tom named, engaging in curiosity, uniting for justice, resisting harmful behavior, and covenanting with one another to strengthen our relationships. In the book and in the conversations at last week's retreat, those have me wondering, in the ecosystem that is UU Schenectady, what characteristics are here? What needs to be strengthened? And what needs to be let go so that we can better survive and thrive in this moment, but also into the future? This year, our annual focus of ministry set by the board is to make courageous decisions with love at the center and take collective action to meet this moment together. At the Common Read gathering last week, several folks noticed how fragile ecosystems are, like our democracy, like congregations, like families. We have learned from environmentalists that when a species is threatened, we can take collective action to protect them from extinction, and that when we do nothing or too little, they die. Applying that to all the ecosystems that we are part of, this body, we have to take care of ourselves, breathing, listening, remembering who we are and who we're striving to be, feeling our feelings, noticing our stress responses, focusing our attention on compassion, grounding our days in gratitude, and living with love at the center. And letting that ripple outwards to the ecosystems of our families and friends, our congregation, our communities, our nation, our world. We can bring more connection to one another, to address the loneliness so many of us are feeling and that is often amplified around the holidays. And I know it can be hard to reach out to someone we don't really know, or even sometimes people we do know, and be willing to risk connecting, to be a bit more vulnerable, to be real about our feelings and our hopes. And it makes a difference when we do, when we are. At noon, your board of trustees is hosting an open questions event in which we explicitly hope that you will not only share your thoughtful answers to the questions they pose, but that you will be inspired and maybe even changed by the thoughtful answers of others. Those questions are to plant the seeds. What can we do this year to ensure that UUSS will exist and flourish into the next 125 years? And how can we stay curious and engaged with each other and our communities during these difficult times? Powerful questions. The board, of course, could sit in a room and answer these questions themselves, but we can also imagine that when we are listening together, with our egos and agendas aside and our hearts open, that more answers that come from our being together will be even better. When Lynn and I first arrived here, we talked a lot about the cultural characteristics of white supremacy culture that Tom referenced, knowing that we cannot dismantle it if we do not talk about it and learn to recognize it in ourselves and in our midst. The work of Tema Oken and Kenneth Jones has shaped nearly a generation of folks in a wide array of ecosystems for social change and in congregational life and in community organizations and all kinds of ways. Finding antidotes to the values, norms, practices, and assumptions of white supremacy culture is part of our collective work as Unitarian Universalists. We are not white supremacists. We are people, all of us, every single one of us, who have been shaped and influenced by white supremacy. That is a huge difference, and one that is important to remember as we do this hard and healing work. So breathe with me, just as we did in the meditation, because we can breathe through hard truths that we are living in a world that is driven by things that are an anathema to our values. We can also breathe through hard family dynamics, ones that Tom mentioned earlier, or maybe the ones that you experience in your families. And as we have seen in too many examples, we shall not take this breath for granted. How does all this connect, and why does this matter, you might ask? covered a lot of different things in our time this morning. The characteristics of thriving ecosystems, characteristics that were up on the board, are some of the antidotes to white supremacy culture because they point us towards a better way of being human. An example, one of those characteristics of white supremacy culture is the emphasis on individualism. As in, for white people, seeing ourselves and or demanding to be seen as an individual and not as part of the white group. Or for more of us, a belief that you are responsible for and are qualified to solve problems on your own. Or a failure to acknowledge any of the ways that dominant identities of gender, class, sexuality, religion, able-bodiedness, age, education, just to name a few, are informed by belonging to a dominant group that shapes cultural norms and behavior. This comes from Tema Okun's work that she's developed even further along since her work with Kenneth Jones. The characteristic of individualism in white supremacy culture. As a counter to that, or as an antidote, thriving ecosystems value interdependence. Knowing that our success is directly and sometimes indirectly related to each other. That we need one another to engage in the work, offering our gifts and skills from our different vantage points for the benefit of the group. Another characteristic that white supremacy culture affirms is either-or binary thinking, positioning or presenting options or issues as either or. You're good or bad, right or wrong, with us or against us. Conflict and an increased sense of urgency as people feel they have to make decisions to do either this or that with no time or encouragement to consider alternatives, particularly those which may require more time or resources. But thriving ecosystems, on the other hand, offer the antidote of valuing complexity, comfort with nuance. We don't want to box ourselves in. We expect conflict and discern generative ways to repair it if possible. And we value a capacity to evolve. We value transformation. We welcome it. We believe that people, institutions, and systems are able to change. Thriving ecosystems. Now, these are just a couple of examples. And listening to several wise folks reflect at the retreat last weekend, I loved the ways that many folks were connecting the characteristics of thriving ecosystems with our UU values. We too value transformation, interdependence, diversity, and so much more. We too affirm complexity and nuance, both and thinking, and we are evolving from the individualism of our forebears towards the beloved, interdependent, anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural, celebratory, beloved community. And you know else? Who else values these things? Zohran Mamdani. Woo! The new mayor of New York City. If you have not seen or heard his acceptance speech, please give yourself that gift. Even as I have rage and grief and dismay and a host of other feelings at so much of what is happening to and in our government, I was so moved by Mamdani's speech. His words tended to the fragile flame of hope that has sometimes this year flickered dangerously close to being extinguished in me. His vision for the city, his reminders of who we can be and what we can do together, his lifting up of immigrants, his unapologetic faithful existence, and his powerful, lovingly defiant words when he said, "Together we will usher in a generation of change, and if we embrace this brave new course rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves." Amen. His words filled me with something that was vaguely familiar, something I had not been feeling much of. It was hope. A warmth in the center of my chest, my heart daring to open to the possibility that we are not defeated, that the flame of hope is burning, and that we are rising. Our ecosystems can be made stronger. Our family gatherings can be places of civic and civil engagement. Our faith can help us navigate our life journeys when grief appears and when we are filled with gratitude. And as we heard in our story for all ages this morning, it reminded us that when the clouds roll in for others and for me, I know now there is something I can do, something we can do. We can let our hearts lead the way. I am love, you are love, we are love. And with love, we will weather the storm and light up this sky together. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be. We believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need, a time, a place, a joy being together. There are so many ways to be there for one another as we make our way through stormy times and joyful ones. We can be present, choose kindness, offer compassion. We are love. Our faith calls us towards thriving ecosystems where we live into our shared values, recognize and transform the impacts of racism and other forms of oppression, and promote that all are worthy of justice, dignity, food, shelter, health care, peace, and flourishing. And when we come together around our shared values and goals and play our roles effectively and collaboratively, we can make our boldest visions a reality. Like this chalice, may each spark burn within us, even though we will extinguish it soon, fierce as our resistance to oppression, bright as our hopes for a better tomorrow, strong as the love that holds all our bodies within the care of this beloved community. This is where we are called to be. The task is mighty, and so are we. Let us love, love, love the hell out of this world.